Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is Project Spark Game Mechanics, and we're working on Ghost Recon again this month. And this tutorial I have attempted to make a AI vehicle mechanic where you can hijack cars and villagers and NPCs can drive cars around on a track. Well, it sort of works. I'm going to put a disclaimer here in that elements of this work really well, except for two major issues, which I haven't managed to circumvent as yet. And to be honest, I don't think I'm going to be able to. I've tried various things and I haven't managed to fix it. So it's not the most perfect tutorial that I've ever done, but I thought I would definitely show it because it has a lot of elements in it that you could possibly use. So here we have our mechanics. So I have a series of cars. There we go. So we've got one going in that direction and we've got two going in this direction, and they're passing across terrain, and they are driven by an NPC character. Now if I want to hijack a car, I just need to get into the middle of the road and the car will stop. I can then interact with that car and the villager gets off and goes collapsing into the street, and now I've got the car and I'm fully controlled. I can go cross country, I don't have to stay on the track. I can do what I like, and when I've finished with the car I press B and the car then gets driven off by an NPC. So there we go. So that mechanic works really, really well. Unfortunately, there is a problem, and I will show you the problem by hijacking this car here. Okay, so I've hijacked this car and I want to go over that hill. The AI cars manage it without any problem, but I can't. And that is because this car is a fixed physics. It's an object, it's fixed physics, and it's only character physics that recognise terrain and heights and different heights of terrain. But if I change the physics to character, my driving mechanic no longer works. So I'm a bit scuppered really. So this works really well on the flat, it just doesn't work well with terrain. And the other problem, as I think you saw at the beginning, is that I can't specify where these cars start. They all start at position 0 of the path. And so if you've got cars dotted around your path, sometimes they try to get to position 0. I think there is a distant situation. They'll try to get to position 0 before they start the path. So if they're in front of the point 0, then they're going to start moving towards that point 0, like this car does here. So if I place the car before the start of the path, like so, we don't have a problem. We do have a problem if we plant it after the start of the path. And so I can't work out a way of getting the cars to do anything different, unfortunately. If anybody knows how you can get an object to start on a node of a path, that would be great, because I don't know how to do that. You would have thought there was some code or other that would allow you to do that, but I haven't seen it written down and I couldn't work it out. So let me know if you know that one. So let's have a look at the code for what I have done. Here is my car, and so we've got 2 pages. The first page at the beginning is what happens when you get out of the car. So I will skip that and go back to that in a minute. So let's go with this first of all. When in trigger zone or collidable. So there is a trigger zone, I will show you, in front of the car. I don't know if you can see that. There's a box trigger zone box in front of the car. Slightly to the side. We can, there we go, there it is there. In fact, we can make that slightly smaller and we can change the scale of it. Just make it slightly smaller. There we go. Move that over. There we go. There we are. That's the collidable box. So if there's anything in front of the car that gets in front of the car, it's going to stop the car. It's going to set its speed to 0. So if a goblin gets in front of the car or a player gets in front of the car or anything, it's going to stop the car. Otherwise, the car speed is 0.6, and you can change that. And you can also make that a number variable, maybe put a randomizer in. It's entirely up to you. When you see the player, it's going to give you an interactive thing, so you can interact with the car. So it sets a lot of variables. If it can't see the player, that's the else statement, it's going to move on the path, and you pick your path and you're going to move it with flying if you have got terrain, but like I said, that you might want to leave the terrain out, in which case you don't need the with flying because it's on a flat plane. It will be fine. At speed, car speed, and that was that number variable we set earlier. So once we've interacted with our car, this is the first point of turning on our driving brain. So we're going to create an object variable called rider, and that's going to be our player. So rider equals it. Rider visible equals false. Rider's brain is false. And then we're going to set a boolean to say ride equals true. When ride is true, we're going to put our rider's position y coordinate, and we're going to move him up into the air. So we've made him invisible, we've turned his brain off, and now we're going to shove him up into the air. And that stops him getting attacked by anybody. I've tried making him non-attackable, I've tried changing his team, I've tried all sorts of making him vulnerable, all sorts of things, and the goblins were still attacking him. So as a last resort, I've got him shoved up into the air and changed his physics type to fixed so that he stays up there. And then we're going to set a boolean called show equals true, and what this will do is this will activate the driver model that we've got in the car. Then we're going to switch to page 2, and on page 2 we're going to add our driving brain, and then if it detects that we no longer have a driving brain, it's going to switch back to page 1, and we're going to start back on at the beginning of the brain. And at the beginning lines of the brain, which I didn't go through, says when the page is entered, you're going to be team 2. So you're going to be the AI car cannot be attacked by the goblins because they are the same team. And you're not riding anymore, so we're going to set our rider's physics type back to being character, because if you remember we changed it to being fixed. And we're going to make our rider collidable to be true only when the car cannot detect the player, because we don't want the player to be thrown across the map, which is what happens when you move something into position of another object and both are collidable. It creates this amazing physics force which will throw things across the map, so that's to prevent that. So there you go, that's the driving, that's the car brain. And then we have our models here. So we've got a model for the villager that's driving the car to start with, and we have a model for our player. So in our player brain, this is the model that's going to become visible when you're driving. It says when owner is show is true, then visible equals true, otherwise visible equals false. We're going to emote a sit emote, and we're going to change our pace to 0.001. For those of you who have looked at my driving tutorial that I did, riding tutorial for riding wolves and fish and making bikes and things, if you haven't got a Connect and you can't make your own sit emote, then use the cower emote instead. And in our villager, we've got a very similar brain. It's the opposite. So when the owner is show is true, then our visibility is going to be false. And also, I'm going to create a wooden peasant to be thrown out of the car, and I've got a templated object for that. Otherwise visible is true, and then we've got the same sit emote as the player one. And this is our template. This is the peasant that we're going to throw from the car. So for 1 second, I'm going to move with strafing to the left, so he gets out of the way of the car. And then after a second, he's going to fall down. And then after 3 seconds, I'm going to destroy him. And you could change that. You can make him a wandering villager if you like at that point. Add the wandering villager brain so that he then wanders about. You'll be creating woodland villagers every time you take a car. But I don't suppose that's a problem. It's up to you what you do. I'm just going to destroy mine after 3 seconds after he gets out of the car. And here is our driving brain. This is the driving brain that we're going to put into our car when we're riding, and it is very similar to the previous driving brains that we've had in previous tutorials. I've got a engine noise being played when you're driving. When B is pressed, so when you're in the car and you're driving and then you press B, we're going to turn everything off and we're going to put it back. So all that we did before, we're going to reverse. So show equals true, brain active equals true, rider's position equals above the car. So we're going to move him from where he was before, which could be anywhere on the map, up in the sky. We're going to move him so that he's above the car. We're going to change is collidable to false, rider visible equals true, rider equals false, and we're going to remove this brain from the car. And this is when the car is being driven, it's going to be team 1, so that goblins will attack the car if you're in it. And this is the camera, which is a follow camera with an ignore prop collision, because we've got a glued object that is the car, with a minimum distance of 0 and max distance of 0. And I'm displaying a health meter for the car, screen top left, but obviously you don't have to have that if you don't want to. And then we just got left stick move because we don't want to do anything else. We haven't got guns on the car, or we don't want our car to jump or anything like that. So we only got a left stick move, and that's it. So there you go. There's our AI vehicles that you can hijack. And using paths, etc. And if any of you know how I can solve the problem of driving through terrain, bearing in mind that if I change it to character, it doesn't work, it jumps about all over the place, and then I can't drive it, let me know. Thanks for watching, and keep sparking.